So are there 7 or 8 wastes that we should check for when improving our processes to be more lean? Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And in this video, we're going to go into the 8th waste a bit. And I will admit right up front, it is a topic where I'm a bit on the fence. So I don't really like the idea of adding extra parts to perfectly good tools. But I do also see the benefits of adding this 8th waste, which will be skills or unused human potential, into the mix of Muda that we check for when we are improving the leanness of our operation. And so before we start to actually go through the list and discuss the details and the pros and cons of each of those wastes, I think it's good to state that the main arguments that I hear, and I would even say they come from 2 people, which is Paul Allen of Complexity Made Simple. Big fan of your channel, Paul. And he says that we should not be adding an extra waste, and mainly also because lean is focusing on the production process and your time that it takes to make a product, to make sure that you get a product out of the door, get your cash back into your company as soon as possible. So the main reasoning is lean, and the 7 Muda of lean don't focus on the people. Now, Daniel from Lean Smarts, another great channel, again, I advise you to check it out, is a bit jumping in and too with different types of videos, podcasts. He now launched a very nice series on his own donut company, or actually his wife's donut company, where he is now the lean manager, so to say. Very nice videos. And he actually made this full-length podcast about why we should include and even start with the 8th waste, which is lost human potential, with the main argument being that it's arguably the worst waste of all, because we are wasting human time, we are wasting human lives, and there is in the end nothing as precious as our human potential, and that also goes for all of the employees and colleagues we have in our own organization. Well, that is also a compelling argument. So let's go through the list and then come back to these views, and also, of course, to my way of thinking and why I think in the end it would be good to keep it in mind, but probably not to put it in the list. Let's check until the end. Now, what we see is the list, and it's often abbreviated as Tim Woods, like an easy mnemonic, either Tim Wood or Tim Woods, depending on if you want 7 or 8 wastes to be in there, and they are transport, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, overproduction, defects, and then skills or not using skills, not using the talent of your people. With that one also being that debatable 8th waste. What they are looking at is, you have to see them in perspective. So you have 3 main categories of problems in your lean organization. This is the Mura and Muda, with the first 2 being unevenness of your production. So some days you are asking a lot, some days you are not, or some days you are asking a lot of product A, almost no product B. The other day it's the other way around, so almost no A, lots of B. And because of that, you are straining your machines. You need to keep a lot more inventory than would be needed when you have a very flat production. The other thing is overburdening. So when you ask too much of your lines, too much of your people, you are stressing your system. This often happens when you have unevenness in your production schedule, because on the peaks you are quite sure to overburden your machines. And if you overburden machines and people and basically your whole process, what will happen is that you get more maintenance problems. So your line will deteriorate faster because you are overusing mechanical parts. You get maybe burnout, non-ergonomic types of things with your operator population. So it's basically also overburdening the people in your factory, asking a bit too much, and by that deteriorating your production systems, your production resources. Now, and then the third one is the Muda, the 7 waste in the original set, and the 8th waste being added mainly by Jim Womack. They really focus on when basically your process is hopefully more or less aligned, what wastes are in the process itself. So when you are performing the process. And what we see there, let's not go into all the details of each of them. I do assume that you more or less know it. And when we then check it, we see transport and inventory. That is really time-based more than anything else. So they all have and cost component and a time component in it, but these costs are mainly in the time it takes and the resources to get this time together and some moving, actually putting it in a warehouse. And then when we look at motion and waiting, and just to rehash this one, transport is when you're moving the product. Motion is when your operators are moving, so moving without a product. What you here see, and waiting is a bit double. You will see waiting both for the machines and their operators. Although what I would say is that if you are really having the whole machine waiting, it's more inventory. So yes, waiting is for both, but often how it is identified is people waiting for a machine to finish cycles before they can do some loading, unloading again. And what you basically see is that person could have been doing something useful. Maybe if you change the machines a bit, they can even already be prepping the next round so that the next cycle of production goes faster, or you can already prep things that would otherwise cost you total process time, which is usually machine time. So these two actually, they are more about the human factor. These two, they are more on your resources that are directly producing. And overproduction, well, I didn't put anything behind it yet, because basically overproduction causes all of these things. So let's just put it in the everything category. Which is also why many people actually say that overproduction is the worst of all the wastes. And basically what overproduction also, why it is so bad, it almost is the unevenness of your production type of problem, right? So demand is lower, but you still just want to produce because it's easy to get a batch finished, stuff like that. If you have a very nice flat production schedule, then overproduction is already much easier to combat. It almost doesn't naturally pop up. Now, skills, of course, and here we come to basically the sort of issue that I have with what Paul Allen said. This is also a man thing, right? Skills is about losing human potential, losing the resource of the personnel you have in your organization. So purely on that front, it fits. I mean, we have plenty of things looking at our human resources, operated time, and basically, to put it bluntly, the amount of money that we spend on the people resources, the human resources making the product, that is also a big part of the cost. And to be lean, you should be using as little human hours, as little human time as you can get by with. And that's one of the things you see in the motion and the waiting. But do skills and unused skills fit into this matchup? Well, partially. See, what Daniel is talking about, that we are wasting human potential by not having people completely open up, completely contribute on all parts to the processes, to the improvement of the processes. Well, that is true, but the people contributing to the improvement of the process, this, I think, should not be in your waste analysis. It is a very important cultural thing, and it can be a big boost for your organization if you can tap the creativity and the process knowledge of everyone involved, especially on their own processes, because CI managers, line managers, outside consultants, they may be better trained in spotting wastes and coming up with solutions. But they are more expensive per hour, but much more important, they are not there 24 hours a day or however long your production is running. The people actually doing the process, they have so much more contact time. And because of that, they have so much more context and experience about the process that they naturally make much better improvers, because they will know what they need to be faster, to have it move nicer, to get this flow, because that in lean is what we're going to do, create flow, and they will know what is holding them back. So on that front, they do fit in, but I don't think that tapping your people for ideas, and if you are on a factory floor, you're looking at a line and you're saying, well, this whole area with this production line, it is less efficient because the operator is not creating ideas at the moment. So they are not generating improvements. That does not, if they would be generating improvements, that does not increase the productivity of the line, of the area. Although you will feel that if you allow for this improvement, creativity to be going on and to actually find seed in the organization and make sure something is done with it, then in the end it will improve the efficiency. So when we are looking at a line, I am inclined to say this one, if we are talking about potential, human potential, let's not put it in the eighth waste. Purely skills, and this one, I think, is what few people in this discussion are bringing forward. But it really, when I hear the different viewpoints on do we have to check for skills, we are losing sight of a very important part, which is that an operator on a line is not just working with their hands. They are also really operating the line. So they are steering the process, they are controlling the process. And when we see that, for instance, we have minor defects or difficulties on the line, something mechanical, so that your operator has to be there to correct things the whole time, then they will not have the time and the available attention, let's say, so not the mental capacity, because they're busy with fixing something mechanical, to really get and keep the overview and control the process. And the same goes for if we put lots of small tasks everywhere that they, for instance, have to take samples the whole time. And that might be nice and needed to get the information out. But if we, by taking sample there, adding a couple of ingredients there, and having all of those sort of manual steps in the process with such a frequency that basically your operators are always busy, at that point, I guarantee you, you are wasting part of their observation and control skills. And this is something to really pay attention to. So make sure that the person operating the line will also be able to use their control and their steering skills. Do not completely bog them down with, after we see that it looks like somebody is waiting, well, they might actually be using that waiting time to observe. So we see somebody's waiting, let's give them a task, let's give them a task. Here we can put an extra control, there we can put something. And when we do this in a good way, in a conscientious way, to give them more of a checklist with which they actually control and help them control the process, yeah, probably good. But when you give them tasks to do that will maybe make it easier for your technology team to check the processes afterwards, or it might be a good step for the mechanical maintenance of the line, we are taking away the skill of being able to control the process. So that's my take on the eighth waste. Not a big fan of adding letters and adding things, but if I check these, I do not see this pretty big problem, well, let's say potential problem, huge pitfall that I see in manufacturing operations is that when you completely focus on that, you lose sight of there is a man-machine interaction. The machine has to run well, but also the person operating the machines, they need not only the skills, but also the time and the mental capacity. And with this, I don't mean that you need to have smarter people. It means that you should not be bogging up or using the mental capacity for menial tasks. so that they free up the mental capacity to actually control it. So I would leave it on. Now, I hope you liked me taking you along maybe a bit in my thought processes. As I said, I'm not completely convinced of either way, bit on the fence, but if you did like it, at least hit the like button. Let me know that you appreciate this kind of discussion, sort of, and also please add to the discussion. There is, I think, no right or wrong, so please let me know why you would add skills or untapped human potential to the list, or why you think it should not have a place when we are checking for lean wastes. And for now, I wish you the best of luck hunting wastes in your organization. And as always, don't forget to enjoy the improvement journey.